All right, we are at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, with Driver Motorsports. It's one of our favorite places to go every single year. Super excited. We did get a little bit of rain today, and there was supposed to be a car show today, but luckily you guys had the opportunity to just move it to Sunday, which tomorrow's supposed to be beautiful. Ed, why don't you introduce yourself? What do you drive, and what do you do at Driver Motorsports?
Well, I'm Ed. I sell cars at Driver Motorsports.
Okay.
And I oversee, I just kind of make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, go around.
You're the boss man?
When the boss isn't here, I'm the boss man. Yeah.
And what do you drive?
I drive an R33 Nissan GTR.
I got the chance to see that, and it is beautiful. How long have you had the R33?
Since January.
Is it your first GTR?
Second GTR.
Second?
I had an R32 GTR 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Oh my god!
A while ago.
How does the 33 compare to the 32?
It's bigger, wider, longer, definitely more comfortable.
Okay.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I like the looks of it better too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an R33 guy. Like, back playing the games back in the day.
Yeah.
Like Tokyo Extreme Racer, Gran Turismo.
Absolutely.
R33 GTR.
Absolutely.
They always say that the R33 is kind of like the odd duckling in the group of the R32, 33, 34, but I feel like it is gaining a lot more popularity. And I think that's because just people have seen so many 32s and 34s now that it's like the 33 is kind of slept on a little bit.
They're good, dude.
Yeah.
They're real good.
And you were saying too, we were talking earlier, it's like it has a faster Nürburgring time than the 34 and 32.
Yeah, it's the fastest.
Well, there you go.
Well, what the heck?
So
The fastest.
you imported that, obviously through your work. What is there any challenges, or what do you look for when you're trying to get a car imported and you're buying it for yourself?
The biggest issue is rust. So I don't want a rusty car.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I know a lot about that.
We're from Wisconsin. We don't
Yeah.
we don't like that. That sucks.
So what can you do? Like what? I mean, obviously you can't go see it before you buy it. So what do you do in order to check for that?
So on a lot of our cars we do buy from auction. So thankfully they have inspectors at the auctions that do the auction sheets, right? So they'll mention if there is undercarriage rust,
Okay.
or undercarriage corrosion. Just don't even.
Just don't even mess with that.
No.
It's like, nope.
So my car
Yep.
had undercarriage rust painted. Okay, and I was able to order an inspection. So I got pictures of the underside, and there was like a minuscule amount at like the jack points, like the pinch welds.
Right.
But that was enough for them to.
Right, and it was definitely painted, but it's a white car. Like white cars, they show rust underneath.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm not super worried about it. It looks good. I didn't see anything flaking or nothing crazy. But I could still see the zinc coating on the bolts on the diff, and I was like, no, I think this is probably good.
Yeah, it was pretty clean. Pretty clean. So those inspections, you'd say, pretty trustworthy.
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on the place. Yeah. Some places you'll have cars that have high grades, and you're like, well, it mentions undercarriage rust. Let's get an inspection done, and it's like, bro, like someone was like, hey dog, slap a 4 on this, bro. It's crazy.
Dang. So you got to do a bit of research still when you're purchasing. Is it a similar process when you guys are getting cars inventory for Driver Motorsports too?
Yeah, I mean, our whole thing is we really try to buy only nice cars.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to buy a junky car?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned slap a 4 on this. What does that mean?
Like the auction grade.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that goes up to
5, but it has to have less than 10,000 miles or something like that to be a grade 5. So the highest and be newer than 10 years old.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So you can't even probably get
the highest attainable grade for us to buy is a 4.5.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is the goal, 4s and 4.5s.
Dang.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming with the grade, like, is it pretty big price hikes between like a 3 and a 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times 3s are rusty, or they need a full paint job, or accident history.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Dang, that's some wild stuff.
Yeah.
I get a little bit nervous looking at cars like that. Like when I'm going and checking out cars myself, let alone bringing them across the sea. But every car that I've checked out that you guys have is like, I want every single one that you guys have.
Thank you.
So over the years, how long have you been doing this?
So I've been with Driver Motorsports for almost 8 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You're import expert. So what trends are you seeing currently? Like what are some popular cars that are coming in? And then what cars do you think you'd like to see a little bit more people going after?
Well, the popular cars right now are definitely the JZXs, like the Chaser.
Okay,
Sure,
yep.
sure.
The R34 just became legal, so people are hot to trot on that. The S15.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
and,
one.
Yeah.
I want one so bad.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
I was actually like, that was my plan to buy an S15 next.
Oh, and you ended up with the R33?
I stumbled across that.
Just fell into an R33.
It's not the worst problem to have, I guess.
I'll take it.
So what are some that are being like slept on? Is there any under the radar that people maybe you're like, bro, people are sleeping on these?
Nothing really comes to mind.
Okay.
I mean, people sleep on the VIP cars all the time.
Right.
Because they're
Yeah.
such great cars. So maybe that's what it is. People are sleeping on like some of the cheaper like Toyota Crowns.
Yeah.
Because they're like, even if you're not going to VIP it, like if you're just going to daily drive it,
Yeah.
it's such a nice car.
100%. I was looking at you guys' inventory and to see, I mean, obviously you have the pristine, GTRs and stuff coming through and like the Stagias I've seen. I'm like,
Right.
oh my God, I want that so bad. But then all of a sudden there's these cars for like between 8 to 10 grand. I'm like, 8 to 10 grand for a right-hand drive. It looks immaculate. And like, I'm comparing that to what I daily drive. I'm like, I should just scoop one of these just to have a dope daily driver.
Yes. Right.
So like when not every car you import is going to be like insanely expensive or anything. There's actually some affordable ones you can
Definitely.
get.
Yeah. I mean, we have several cars that are under 10 grand.
What would you say if you had to choose a car under 10 grand to import? What would you pick? You personally.
Me personally?
Yeah. What would you want to do?
Well, my plan at some point, the next VIP car, I've owned an LS 430 before.
Yeah.
And I think I want a Japanese like Celsior, like UCF 30.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like I can probably get one of those for under 10. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I really want an S15.
Under 10 for an S15? I don't know if that's going to happen.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Now, a question too, I think that comes up a lot is, let's say I buy one of these cars for 8, 10 grand. I get it. It's a great daily. But here comes some like routine maintenance, or maybe I break something because I have sausage fingers, and when I go into engine bays, I just end up shattering everything. Is it tough to get parts for those, or are they pretty common?
It depends on the car, really. If you get a car like a Toyota Celsior or a Nissan Cima, those cars came to the U.S. in different versions.
Right.
So like the LS400
Yep.
is the Celsior, and the Q45 is the Y33 Cima.
Sure.
And everything's pretty much interchangeable between them?
Everything except for like specific right-hand drive parts.
Gotcha.
So the interior is different, obviously, but ball joints, tie rods, brakes, valve cover gaskets, seals, all of that's the same. So if you're worried about something like that, that's what I would recommend doing.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, like, if you do need to buy some parts from Japan, is that difficult or not too bad?
It depends on the parts, really. Because thankfully, a lot of parts you can get in the U.S.
Right.
I mean, like JZXs, they share the same suspension as a Toyota Crown.
Sure.
So JZX has been coming over here for a while. So there are a good bit of parts stateside. If you have to get something from Japan, you can use a service like Bai. They're particular about what they will actually ship, but if you need an interior piece or like an air filter tube or something,
Gotcha.
Right.
yeah, something generic that's not harmful.
Gotcha.
Like you can't ship an airbag.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that delivery guy throws a package down or in the back of the truck or something?
Yeah.
That'd be wild. All right. Is there any like that you'd say like big misconceptions or anything you'd want to clear the air about importing cars? I know you've been in it for 8 years, so I think it gets a little bit like you're almost numb to it. It's just it's every day for you. It's your job.
100%.
So, but I think to regular people like me who's never imported a car, I think there's a lot of like misconceptions, questions, and things like that. What would you recommend for someone importing their first car? Is it an easy process? Is it hard?
No, I mean, if you're trying to import it yourself, you're not going to have a good time. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of paperwork.
yeah, I mean, there's the customs you have to deal with, the arranging shipping,
Yeah.
getting the car deregistered in Japan. Like, it's
Yeah, I don't know anything about
no,
any of that.
and I don't know anything about it either. So, I don't do any of that. I just sell the cars.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's fair.
So, like, I mean, if you want a Japanese car and you want to get a good one, like, buy from us.
Right, because it's already imported, ready to
Right.
go. So,
Yeah.
like, if they buy from you, is it like you go to the DMV and register it and you're good to go?
Comes with a Virginia state title, 30-day temporary tag, so you don't even have to rush to DMV.
Dang. So there's nothing like tricky at the DMV? I feel like that's a big misconception.
So, it depends on the person at the DMV.
Oh, really?
Like legitimately.
I feel like that's even with American cars.
Yeah.
I go there and it's a
hit or
nightmare.
miss every time with my normal cars.
Yeah, and it's the same way with insurance. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people, you need to end up getting a stated value policy because they use the VIN to compare and like for the to get the value. So you can't get the value on a car that isn't in the U.S.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Right. So you say you bought it for $15,000, you want to insure it for $15,000 or $20,000. They'll normally let you. It's normally cheaper.
Oh, really?
Especially if you get like a classic car insurance.
Sure.
Oh, I was wondering if it would be like really expensive because they're like, oh, it's a Japanese car. We can't get, like, if it's in an accident, how are we going to get parts? But it's cheaper, huh?
Yeah, so I had my Cedric insured through Grundy, and it was $231 per year.
Oh.
I thought you were about to say per month.
Yeah, I was like,
Jesus
that's pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah, for a year. That's
For
not bad.
$15,000 like coverage.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome. That's a good deal.
yeah,
Not too shabby.
But you have to be like over 25 to do that. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
And now we'll switch up gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about your R33. You were going to take that out on the track. Are you still planning with the rain today, or are you going to wait till tomorrow?
It depends if it stops raining. I do hope that it stops raining so I can get out there some today. But
Yeah.
I'm also not trying to put my GTR into it.
Yeah, on the
That's fair.
Like the time of just filming this segment, I think I've seen the tow rig go about 3 or 4 times. So-
Yeah, we'll see a few cars go by and then nothing for a little while, and then cars go by again and then nothing for a little
and
while.
then just like someone getting pulled out.
yeah, it sucks.
Is it your first time taking it out on the track since you've had it?
Yeah, the GTR.
Oh, man, that's exciting. Did you ever track the R32 that you had?
I did not.
No? Oh, so this is
I
first time
should've. That
GTR
thing
on the
was a
track?
monster.
Yeah, it's Godzilla. That's the OG Godzilla.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that R33 get out there. I think you're going to tear it up. It looks so good. We'll have to put up a picture or something. I took some photos of it. Dude, it's gorgeous. You
Thanks,
put the work wheels on there with like perfect fitment. Is the engine stock on that?
Yeah, it just has a front mount, an intake, exhaust, and then it has a Greddy oil cooler, and a Greddy radiator.
Okay. So a few bolt-ons and
just a few bolt-ons, stock boost, stock turbos,
suspension?
HKS coilovers.
HKS.
Nice.
It seems like a lot of cars you guys have HKS coilovers.
Yeah.
I've never had them personally. Do you like them?
I do.
Yeah.
Do a lot of them come with that already? Like, do they come over with those coils on it? Or?
It depends on the car.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's just like anything else. Sometimes you get no-name coilovers. Sometimes you get just old Japanese coilovers.
Yeah.
Every now and again, you get some nice coilovers. So it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Have you ever
imagine.
found anything like weird or funny in a car that came over?
So I had an R33 GTS 25T before.
Okay.
We got that from Australia.
Whoa.
I was putting my Fortunato coilovers on it. Shameless plug.
We just were over there.
And we had to pull the rear seats out, right? So I pop the bottom of the back seat up, and I pull the seat out, and like right in the center, there's this plastic bag, like right in that center hump area, where there's not really a seat. But
Yeah.
So I'm like, what a plastic bag. So I open it up, and it's just like a grocery bag wrapped up, and it has a freaking crack pipe in it.
Oh,
Like, no kidding.
what the hell?
Like, I only assume that's what it is. I've never.
Like, this looks a little.
So there's like a pack of gum in there too. So I open up the pack of gum, and there's like this little baggie with some stuff in it.
Not gum?
I'm like, not gum. And I'm like, this came through customs.
Yeah, for real.
yeah, oh my God.
From Australia.
But why was it strapped to the... Someone missed their
Yeah.
Yeah.
delivery. Oh, my
Actually,
God.
I think that's the last car we've gotten from Australia.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, we're good now. We're good.
Them Australians be wild. And just some
Wildin'.
straps, some shit like, hey, let's send them a present with this one. You're not getting the car.
Other cool things we found like dude had some photos developed.
Yeah.
And it's just like him and his family like in like formal attire. They're
Oh,
like,
man.
So
That's
I don't know
really
if
cool.
you noticed it, but there's actually pictures of him all over the shop.
What?
Wait,
no,
really?
I didn't
What?
know.
No.
that.
Where?
Just some random guy from Japan?
There's one like magnetic, like stuck to the steps. You're going upstairs. Yeah, it's just like
I gotta
him,
see these now.
Just super serious. It's awesome.
Now I kind of want to do that. I want to like get a nice suit, take some film photos, stuff them in corners of my car, and then when I sell it, they can have that and decide what to do.
yeah, someone will
Hopefully,
find
hang
it
it around
somewhere.
their shop.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I
It's
like.
so funny. Next time we go there, I'm going to keep an eye out because it's like a
Little
little.
does that guy know, he's just in a shop in Virginia.
He's a legend
Just
here.
Yeah, photos everywhere, plastered around. That's super cool. Well, thanks, Ed. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back to talk a little bit more about VIR and importing cars.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. Now we're back for real, and we're here with Chris Driver, the founder, the owner of Driver Motorsports. How you doing, Chris?
Good. Doing well.
Over here with VIR, with your Chaser.
Yes.
They're going to be taken out. The thing is absolutely beautiful. But before we get into that, Chris, I wanted you told me a story a little while back about how back in the day you were running Japanese cars against domestic cars. So tell me a little bit about what you were driving, what that was like.
Man, let me get the time frame right. I
Yeah.
would say it's 2003, 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I bought an S2000.
Oh,
right? 'Cause
hell yeah.
before this, I was all American muscle.
Sure.
Right? I had like a 71 Camaro and a Trans Am and things like that.
Okay.
So I wanted something that could handle. I was playing Gran Turismo 1.
On the PlayStation 1?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cars on there, you know, I started running them, and S2000 just come out.
Yeah.
So I was excited. I'm like, oh, I could buy that brand new. Let me do that.
Yeah, love those cars.
And got that car, loved it. It was good, but it just wasn't fast enough.
Sure.
Right? So I ended up getting a RX-7. A
Okay.
third-gen RX-7, FD RX-7.
Damn.
It's a good choice, too.
Yeah, except it didn't run as well as the Honda. The brand
fair.
new Honda
That's fair.
always ran,
Yeah.
you know, and the RX-7 was just kind of a nightmare with the sequential twin turbos and everything.
Gotcha.
All the vacuum lines.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly trying to chase down some kind of issue.
Right.
With soapy water.
Looking for vacuum leaks and whatnot.
Yeah. So that was a thing, and then I bought a Supra because I was like, I'm tired of this. Let me get something else. And my buddy had a Supra Auto, and we messed with the boost control. Just put a little ball valve in from the, Lowe's, and woke it right up. Right. So I was like, wow, this is way faster than my S2000 RX-7.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I bought one. It was a little beat up, it was an auto, but I did the same thing, put an intercooler on it, and it was pretty fast. So at that point, then I was like, all right, I could actually compete with some guys out here on the street.
Yeah.
And because they were all running Camaros, Mustangs,
Right,
Fox
right.
body Mustangs, and Catfish Camaros.
Oh, yeah.
things like that.
That era. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and nitrous was just starting to come in, more.
Be more
to street
popular and-
cars and things like that. And they would run like 150 shot of nitrous.
Oh, dang.
Fast cars.
Right.
But, so I go out and I'm looking for, a little action. So, you always park in the parking lot up next to the other cars. They didn't know who I was.
Right.
And they're like, kind of leery of me a little bit, and they thought I was a cop at first.
With the Supra, with some Brian O'Connor.
Yeah, literally, bro.
And I'm like, I'm not a cop. I promise.
That's what a cop would say.
I told them, I was like, I don't think a cop could tell you they're not a cop, because that would be entrapment. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
right there, I'm telling you I'm not a cop. And so just they were like, what is it, Eclipse or something like that? They
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
even
yeah.
know what it was.
Oh, they
I was
thought
like,
it was
no,
like a 2G.
it's a Supra, Toyota Supra. It's pretty quick. We can run.
Yeah.
And just went out and ran on, kind roads.
Yeah, private
Yep,
close
yep,
cars,
yep.
professional drivers.
And, they put me up against the first guy, and he was, kind of fast, but not crazy. I got him, and I was all excited, too. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
What's up? And so they're like, oh, okay, you need to race this guy. And I raced him, and I beat him.
Just
And they
taking
were
names.
like, okay, now you got to race. I'm not going to say names.
It sounds like a Need for Speed video game.
He's
like
knocking
you're
out the blacklist.
Yeah, dude, you're taking down the bosses.
Now you have to race this other guy
Yeah.
that has, like a 200 shot of nitrous on a new Camaro.
Jesus.
And all this. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Why
Let's
not?
do it. Let's run them.
And then ran him, and he actually beat me.
Okay.
Okay.
Got
So
humbled a little bit.
I got beat, and I was like, damn, it was close.
But they had to find your place in there, though. Like, they were like,
They
worked
put
your
you
way up.
against the, slower
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
and so they were impressed.
Yeah.
Because they were like, that's
dang.
pretty fast, for an import.
Right,
They were used to
right.
running the Honda Civics. And
Oh,
stuff
sure,
like
sure,
that,
sure.
And then after that, I was like, okay, I got to get faster, right? So I turned the boost up more, basically.
Okay,
I just
okay.
put race gas in it, pulled the line completely off the wastegate, so it was just max boost. It got up to like 22, 23 psi.
Dang.
And but then the transmission would start messing up and things like that. So it was a battle. And then finally I said, screw that. I'm buying a 6-speed Supra, 74 millimeter turbo. It was running like 750 horsepower.
Jesus.
Oh, dang. So you sold the automatic?
Sold the auto.
Gotcha.
And I bought the manual. This was probably 2005. And I bought this twin turbo Supra. Okay. USDM one, of course.
Yep, yep.
$28,000 I paid for it. It had 60,000 miles. Already had a single turbo kit. Recaro seats. Like it was fully
That's
decked
crazy
out.
to even think about now.
I know.
And then I sold it for 32.
Oh.
Thinking like, man, I made money on a car.
Hey, that was kind of
Pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, after I got that going and figured out and everything, then I couldn't really get anybody to run me anymore. That was
He's
just
too powerful.
It was,
Yep.
it was
Too powerful.
You were now the boss.
Yeah.
but it then became very boring
Right.
Yeah.
because everybody was like, "No, why?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
am I going to run you? You're going to beat me." So go out and look for bikes. And
Oh,
run
sir,
bikes.
racing bikes?
That was the only people that would run me.
Dang.
Damn.
So that was fun. And then after that Supra, I bought a Corvette, and that's what started me coming out here. I actually ran the Supra out on the track, broke a rotor on like the first day.
Oh, dang.
Second session, couldn't just go to AutoZone and buy a rotor.
Sure.
No one in the pits had
Super rotor laying around, yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, all my buddies were running Corvettes, and I
Yeah.
just said, it's probably the wise choice to switch over to that at that time.
A lot easier to get parts and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still phenomenal cars,
Great
driver-oriented
car.
cars.
Yeah, yeah. Bang for the buck, probably the best you can do right now.
So, in the beginning there, where you're looking at cars, why don't you think you went with like a Corvette or something back then? Why'd you lean towards the Japanese and import cars?
I don't know. I'd say just from playing Gran Turismo.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. I remember
Yeah.
playing that as a kid. My brother had it. And I was just a young kid at the time. I couldn't figure out how to play it, but I loved the cars in it. And especially, too, I always think of like the Castrol, like Mark IV Supra
yep,
that
yep,
was in
yep,
it.
yep.
Just iconic. That's super cool. So tell us about your Chaser you have now. And how does that compare to the Mark IV Supra?
I like it better.
The Chaser?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. It's lighter weight.
Oh.
And feels a lot more nimble than the Supra. The Supra is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Really, to be honest with
Sure.
you. Like it's a 2-door coupe, but it weighs 300 more pounds than the Chaser.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
I figured it would have been the other way around.
Chaser's super lightweight, really for a 4-door.
Yeah,
sedan.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. The 4-door is lighter than the
Yeah.
2-door Supra.
And they tried doing everything back in the day with the Supra to lighten it up. Like I remember reading articles. This shows my age.
That's fine.
I remember reading articles when they were developing it that
Yeah.
something with the carpeting, they would like hollow out the hairs in the carpet to make the carpet lighter.
Oh my God.
weight and things
That's
like
very Japanese.
that. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's just one of the best cars I've ever driven. I really
crazy.
love FDRX7s for the way they look.
Yeah,
I
gorgeous
think
cars.
it's one of the best looking cars ever built. I'll say FDRX7, JZX100 Chaser.
Dang, okay.
I don't know what else I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna just say the top two right there. That's
Wow,
it.
that's awesome.
I love those cars. I love the way they look, and I actually feel like the Chaser handles more like the FDRX7 than it does the Supra.
That's so
Interesting,
interesting.
yeah.
I never would have guessed that. That's
No.
so crazy.
I mean, unless you've driven one,
Yeah.
you just don't know.
Yeah.
I
So-
mean, really, it's an awesome car. Powerful, you know, it's got 1JZ GT,
Yep.
2.5 liter, little brother to the 2J, but it revs higher. And it's got the 5-speed transmission. It's R154 transmission, solid transmission, good for, you know, depending on how you're driving a car. It's all relative, right? How much horsepower transmission will handle. But I'd say for the way I drive, which is aggressive with shifting and transmission and everything, and it depends on how sticky your tires are.
Sure.
But, you know, good for 500-600 horsepower, you know, factory. Just put a clutch in it. And that's what's so good about JZX 100 or the Supra.
Right.
You know, just get more boost to it.
Yeah.
Get more fuel to it.
They'll take it
put
pretty
a clutch
easily,
in
yeah.
there. You don't have to build the engine. You don't have to build the transmission. They'll handle a lot
Sure.
of power. Just
Absolutely.
the way they are. You don't even have to crack a bolt. You know what I mean? On the engine.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. I love them. My favorite cars, like I said, and then I have the FDRX7 that I'm gonna build all-out track car.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Keeping it rotary?
No.
Oh, not rotary.
No.
Joe's is pissed. What's
I'll
going in
forgive
it?
him.
3S GTE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting build.
I'm
All
really a
right.
Toyota guy.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
love the way the RX-7 looks and handles, and it's lightweight. It's aerodynamic. It's
I
got
think that'll
everything going for it.
I think that'll be an awesome car for you. I think
Yeah.
that'll be really
If
good.
I could fit.
So I've heard a lot about Toyota and Mazda, but I haven't heard you say much about Nissan.
I love Nissans. Okay, I do. I give these guys a hard time. Right?
Here, hold your
But it
mic
works
a little bit like fist. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There. So you hear you good? Because I want to get this.
Okay.
Ed's running away right now.
Why don't you have a GTR, Chris? It seems like you've dabbled a lot in the imports, but I'm not hearing much about like a GTR or anything
Well, I've
like
owned
that.
a lot of GTRs
Okay, all right. Tell us about
through
them.
the business.
Oh, not in the personal collection, though.
I love the way they look.
Yeah,
Right. I love the way the RB26 sounds.
it is a phenomenal sound.
Sounds
engine.
fantastic. And I love the R33 GTR. Like I would love midnight purple with some LMGT4s, bronze, midnight purple.
Yeah.
I mean, like just
Japanese icon at
Yeah.
that point.
beautiful
Yeah.
car, right? I would probably leave it pretty stock as far as the engine, transmission, all that, because when you start building them, that's when you run into problems.
Yeah.
The transmissions are, you know, good,
Yeah.
all right, but 500-ish horsepower, okay, because it's all-wheel drive as well, so it hooks up even better with rear-wheel drive, and so that just puts more pressure on the transmission.
Sure.
And then the all-wheel drive system, it's more complicated.
Yep.
It's definitely more difficult to
Yeah,
work
yeah.
on a GTR over a Supra or JZX 100.
Gotcha.
So complication of working on the vehicle, maintenance, you know, everything is just higher.
Gotcha.
with that, and you can't make as much horsepower
Oh,
with a stock engine.
now we're getting into
You
it.
can't.
Yeah.
You just can't. And they have a tendency to crack. The blocks have a tendency to crack.
Sure.
Especially on the all-wheel drive.
Them RBs are
Because
expensive.
The diff is built into the oil pan.
Gotcha.
basically. So it's connected to the
Just putting a
engine,
lot of force on it. Then,
and that
yeah.
puts a lot of force onto that, and it will literally crack the outside of the block.
That's no bueno.
Yeah, it's not fun. So, and then they have oiling issues as well.
Yep.
I mean, you could do things to correct things, you know, but like I said, if I had one, I would make it my show car.
Right.
Sure.
I'd get a R33 GTR, midnight purple, and just leave the engine, transmission, you know, maybe put a clutch in it, nothing crazy, exhaust, intake,
So-
and just drive it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's what I recommend, really.
Gotcha.
And we build GTRs.
Yeah,
for-
you
for
Right.
build some
customers.
insane
I know. That's why I'm taking your
GTRs.
word for
Yeah.
it.
You
I'm
know,
taking your
so
word for it.
It's like, you know, counterintuitive maybe for my business to say, leave it stock. But
Yeah.
I'll get a lot of people and they'll come up and they want 600 horsepower. I'll say, how about 500?
Is that
Because-
pretty reliable? You'd say 500 a good number for them?
Yeah, I mean,
Ish.
475 maybe.
okay.
I mean, really.
I'd say in 400 in the background.
Yeah, okay.
We just keep coming down.
If you put an ECU on it, have
Yep.
a really good tune, and have the fail safes on there and everything, you can push 500.
Sure.
And of course, you're gonna have to upgrade the turbos,
Yeah.
and some other things, or put a small single turbo on it, or whatever. But you can, run 500. I think
Sure.
pretty reliably.
Sure.
If you have it tuned correctly.
Yep.
And you're not beating the ever living out of it. So, yeah, guys want 600 horsepower, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, that's when the transmissions start kind of letting out.
Yeah, you start running other
So now
things.
you're going to need a built transmission. You can get a gear set, put it in there, 12, 14 grand.
Oh.
You can get a sequential or something like
That'd
that. It's
be
going to be 20, 22,000 just for the transmission.
That is insane.
And then, just installing it, all that goes along with it, it adds up so fast.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And then engine build.
I get it.
30 grand before you're done.
Yeah.
Replacing
All on top of
everything.
the price of the car.
Well, because it's not just,
Yeah.
let me put pistons and rods.
Right, yeah, never
You're
is.
in there now.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to do cams and valve springs and
The whole 9 yards.
everything else that goes along with it.
Man, that's
it just
crazy.
adds up so fast.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Thanks for sharing that story, Chris.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be Alex diving in with Ed and Chris. So we'll be right back.
Awesome.
All right, I guess I'm here to finish up shop on this potty. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed learning a little bit about Chris and Ed from Driver Motorsports. One of my favorite things that you guys have that I always just love to kind of drool over on the website is you have $77,000 R33 GTR V-Spec cars, and then you also have $9,900, Celsiors and things like that, like things that most people don't really think about when they are thinking about JDM cars. Why do you guys choose to bring in $10,000 JDM cars? You can't be making that much money on those cars.
No,
Like, why do you bring them in?
they're cool.
That's
They
it.
are cool.
I mean, all right, so the Celsius is an easy one.
Okay.
Because everyone that's owned an LS400 knows how reliable they are, how good of a car they were, how comfortable it was for the last 25 years, right?
Yeah.
Now you can buy one with under 100,000 miles, under 50,000 miles.
Yeah,
for
30,000 mile
The
car.
same cost as a 120,000 mile USDM car.
I'm going to be honest. When I was driving the R33 yesterday, which I loved, very cool.
Right.
Right. But a little bit of a more difficult car to kind of pop in and out of. I'll tell you what, hopping
Yeah.
in that Celsius, oof. Electronic telescopic steering wheel, digital dash. Comfy. It felt like I was getting in like old Grandma Nan's like Buick. It was the best thing I think I've ever been a part of.
Oh, it's good.
So you guys just do it just for kind of shits and giggles, just because you like them.
Well, I would say that, Ed was really into VIP cars.
Okay.
And that's where it kind of started was we would bring them in, put
Yep.
them on coilovers, put wheels on them, and VIP
Yeah,
them.
like the first one was the Y32 Cedric or Gloria.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like,
Chris,
Chris, we got to get these.
Yeah.
Okay. Ed, I need you to help.
okay.
I need you to help me out here.
Okay.
What is the difference between the Gloria and the Cedric? They look identical. The internet's confused.
All right. The only difference is the emblems, right? The Gloria is vertical, horizontal. The Cedric is vertical. The taillights are different. Unlike the Y32s,
Barely.
Y33s, the white and the red are
It's flopped.
flopped.
Interesting. Why did they do that? Why does it seem like Toyota is just so stout in their development process? They're like, we're going to make a bunch of different trims, but it's all on the same thing. Nissan's kind of like, well, you got the Cedric, you got the Gloria, you got some different stuff.
All right. Like the Cedric and the Gloria are identical.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just were like, we're just going to mix it up.
Yeah.
Just
It's just
because.
a
Weren't they- they
masculine
were
and
named-
feminine
Yeah.
name.
They were named after a prince and a princess, I believe. Right?
Oh, okay. Okay. So then we have,
Something like that.
if you guys are watching or listening in, Chris, I would kind of put you in the bucket of Team Toyota,
Yes.
if I could lay that down.
Absolutely.
Ed,
I'm Team Nissan.
Team Nissan.
100%.
Okay. You can tell the world in 2 to 3 sentences why you'd pick Team Toyota over Team Nissan. And Ed, you can think about your response to that here shortly. Chris,
Okay.
what do you think?
So I'm going to say that simply they're the best cars ever built. Toyotas from the 90s, I would say from 1990 to 2005, are just literally the best engineered cars, simple to work on, and just quality. They last forever. They go forever.
I agree with him, 100%.
But your
are
team
great.
Nissan, Ed, come on.
Can I?
You can't agree.
No. All right. So I think Nissans have killed the looks. Like, I mean, I got my first 240SX when I was 16. Like, the looks.
Yeah.
That's my.
I do have to say,
As reliable as a Toyota? No. 100% no. But man, if they don't look good doing it, and they are easy to work on, they're easy to maintain. Like,
yeah, I would say Nissan has definitely kind of snagged the looks, especially and even to now, I would say, like, obviously Toyota spent a ton of money, 2023, 2024, GR Corolla, GR86, a lot of these cars coming out of the Gazoo Racing partnership that are absolutely, bang on. Dakota keeps saying, we're living in probably the next iteration of what the 90s heyday was for sports cars right now. You've got the Toyota Supra with the B58, you got the GR Corolla, you got the GR86, you got the Nissan Z coming back. Do you guys agree with that sentiment, or do you still think the 90s trump what's coming out of the car scene right now?
You can't beat the 90s.
no, I agree. If you give us a $20,000 rear-wheel drive car that has a normal engine in it, it would be amazing.
Lightweight.
Yeah,
what
like
what
five
defines
Where are we
a
at?
normal engine?
I was specifically, that was a dig on 8.6s for the stupid boxer, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, well, the GR86 engine, I will say, is terrible.
Yeah,
in terms of the decision to do it was terrible. Not
Yes.
maybe the engine itself. The RTV issue and stuff like that is obviously a finicky thing. But the first generations also had their fair share of just kind of weird, wonky things that they didn't really handle too well. But, I do have to give it up for Toyota on the B58 Supra. Even though it's a BMW partnership, I mean, the B58, that's not an engine you should really be avoiding, right?
No, I mean, LZ's been drifting them and such. So, I mean, like, I think they're probably good engines.
Now-
I'm a hater.
But that being said,
Why, Chris?
It's a BMW
Yeah, it's
all
not a
the way.
Toyota.
It's not a Toyota.
You don't
at
think it's a
all.
Toyota?
No. Look at all the parts on it. They're all stamped BMW.
Why do you
everything.
think Toyota did that then?
I don't know. Lazy.
I mean, obviously Toyota is capable of building some of
Yes.
the best, longest lasting vehicles, best looking vehicles in the world.
They're the largest, richest auto manufacturer on the planet. And then they had to sub out the Toyota Supra. I mean, it was heartbreaking.
Do you think they did it because they're kind of a risk-adverse company?
Yeah,
They're kind of
absolutely.
scaredy cats?
Yeah.
I do feel like Toyota's a little bit of... Once they realized that they're like, wait a minute, people do like the Supra. Like, it's doing what we thought it was going to.
we
Let's
should've
just
made it.
start pummeling the market with all the other stuff that we've gotten the green light. Let's give them the GR86. Actually, let's put a Super engine in that one, too.
Right,
So it's like,
exactly.
what...
That was really a BRZ, right?
Yeah.
That badged as a Toyota.
Yeah,
So that was really a Subaru, pretty much the whole car.
So is there a new gen Toyota that is true, authentically Toyota
The
from
GR
start to finish?
Corolla.
The GR Corolla?
Yeah. I mean, that's.
Isn't it kind of silly though
look-
that like what we know of Toyota? You guys just talked about the Chaser or the old Toyotas from the '90s, the Supras and things like that. Like true era sports cars. Is the GR Corolla technically that sports car? It's a hot hatch, isn't it?
it's a
Yeah,
hot
it's a
hatch.
hot hatch.
So it's
But
not following the same recipe.
I know. They should have built the Supra. And then they have that 3-cylinder engine, right? What is it, the G16 that's
Which
in
we
there?
I don't know anything about
GR
it.
Corolla. 1.6 liter, okay? There's guys modifying them, put cams and springs in them and ECU tune,
Yeah.
bigger turbo injectors and things like that. And they're making 500 wheel
Yeah.
out of a 1.6 3-cylinder engine. So if it was a 3 liter or 3.2 liter inline 6, you could be making 1,000 easy.
Yeah, they could have just
And
doubled
twice
the
as long.
recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm-
they could have put that in the new Supra. That's
So
what
you
they
don't
should have
think
done.
Toyota has still made a new sports car reminiscent of the 90s?
No, I mean there's some of the Lexus, cars that are more sports car and everything like that, but it's just not true. It's it's paddle shift and there's no manual transmission. I mean that's what connects you to a car when you're driving it and you have to actually manually shift.
So when you guys look at Toyota, right? I mean, it's got the paddle shifters. The Supra came out, B58, BMW engine, They make a manual. Now you got a B58 with the Supra, but you got a manual transmission. What is Toyota's tried and true recipe? If you were to go and you were to talk to them right now and say, you need to make this kind of car, what would it be?
Their own Supra.
Yeah.
So same exact thing.
Yeah.
Same exact thing as a Supra, but a different engine in it?
No, they should have developed everything. Their own chassis, engine, transmission, everything.
So the nameplate.
Yeah. I
What-
mean, that's the deal.
When you look at Nissan, on the other side of the fence, Nissan's been doing typical Nissan stuff. They
Right.
developed their cars for 4 decades, and the iterations are the iterations. But like Z came out, twin turbo, 400 horsepower, 6-speed.
Yeah.
Get the LSD if you get the performance package, because that's how
Right.
Nissan do. What do you think about it?
They look cool. I haven't driven one. I've driven a Q50 with the same engine, so I gotta believe it's a good time to drive. But am I gonna buy one? Probably not.
Do you think that it's getting away from the recipe too of what made Nissan? 350Z was so successful because it was a naturally aspirated, you can beat the ever-living crap out of it, pretty much runs on the hopes and dreams of that fourth driver that's owned it for 200,000 miles.
I mean, I'm saying it's just the S13, S14. Lightweight, fun cars.
That's what Nissan needs to make.
Lightweight,
Just a fun, cheap sports car.
cheap
Yes.
sports car that the masses can afford. It doesn't have to have 600 horsepower, 500 horsepower.
Yeah, it doesn't need to compete with the Supra.
300 horsepower, plenty. If you weigh,
I mean, I'm saying
2,800 pounds.
Make so it has 200 horsepower to the wheels, 3,500 pounds, because you can't make a new car lighter than 3,500 pounds
Why?
nowadays. Safety equipment.
Just it doesn't have it in there. Does it have to have it in there?
I feel like it does.
It does.
I feel like the world has now made it
Yeah.
that it does.
It has to.
If it doesn't have side curtain airbags and
Oh, no,
all
that's-
these things.
Not happening.
So we got Toyota. Toyota, I would still say, though, is spearheading, I think, new sports cars. You know, even if it's not true to the recipe, they are.
They're going for it.
Yeah, they're going for it. Their entire lineup. They've got something for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Then you have Nissan. That's like, we're doing one. You get the Z.
Yeah.
Be happy you've gotten that.
Still got the R35.
Well, the R30, that's $1 billion now, though.
And how long is that chassis?
been in production forever.
That's one thing that annoys me. Is like since 2009, it's looked the same. There's been small
That's
revisions.
Toyota, though. That's Toyota.
But look at Nissan in the 90s. The R32 was out for 5 years. Boom, R33 out for 4 years. Boom, R34 out for...
But isn't that because of the
S13,
development of the
S14,
racing
S15.
behind it? That was the only reason they were really making new versions
Was
of it.
because of the racing that was going on at the time?
Well, I know that's a lot of times the highest trim version of a vehicle only gets updated if it's trying to meet some sort of, you know, homologation spec rule that's coming down from the rule
Yeah,
books.
that makes
You know, Nissan's not as active in that racing pedigree as it once was. Now, the Z is.
Mm-hmm.
The Z's taking in the Japanese, the GTC, right? They're running that. But, you know, I don't see it as active anymore. What do you guys think about Mazda?
I like Mazda now, to be honest with you.
Why?
I bought my wife a Mazda.
Oh boy.
All right, she got a Mazda 6, but she loves that car. And basically it stems from I rented, you know, a car, and it was some little Mazda 3 or whatever, right? And I drove it, and I was like, man, this thing feels great. Like, it feels great to drive. It just does,
Yeah.
right? And I looked up, the wife was in need of a new car, right? So I look up, you know, Consumer Reports and everything, right? Because I don't want to have to work on her car.
Yeah.
I want to work on my car.
Yep.
You know, so I wanted to buy her something reliable I don't have to worry about. And Mazda has really come up as far as quality is concerned. You know, with the FDRX7, I said it's one of my favorite cars. I think it's the most beautiful car ever produced, but the interior is going to fall apart and it's going to rattle, and it's you know,
Mazda.
It's pretty junky on the inside.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
But now I feel like they've elevated their brand quite a bit, and the cars are quality and they're fun.
What do you think? Because I got bones to pick with Mazda.
what do I think of Mazda?
Yeah, because they keep talking about making something,
I know.
and they just don't.
The new RX.
And every 6 months, it's almost like clockwork. They're like, "Hey, we have an SP prototype coming. but we're not calling it Mazda Speed because that's childish. Spirit Racing. It's like, okay, cool.
Like
you know,
like
and
the
then they're like, but here's 2 new Mazda SUVs. And then like 9 months go by, and they're like, hey, you remember that one car we showed you? Yeah, we're kind of still working on it, but rotary. And the entire Reddit population explodes with love for Mazda. And then they're like, hey, here's 2 new Mazda SUVs.
Yeah.
And it's like, they need to come out with something that's not a Miata. Like just one more thing, not a Miata. I understand that but the recipe of the Miata has been the same since the 90s. Cheap, affordable, light. Do not lift the price at all. Even a new Miata, as of today, is cheaper than what an NA Miata was at the time that the NA Miata released.
Wow.
You know, that's been why Mazda has been that thing with the Miata. But it's like they're almost too afraid, it seems like, to step out of that mold at all with another car.
But
or Ford doesn't have any money.
They're doing what we said, Nissan and Toyota should do, is make a lightweight, affordable car for the masses, a sports car that just handles good, looks good. The Miata's a little small for me. I'm
big boy.
big son of a bitch, so it's like, it's a little tiny. I can't see myself driving a Miata.
Yeah.
That's why I drive the RX-7.
Yeah.
It's
like
that much bigger.
It is a tiny little bit bigger, but
I would always say
every little bit counts.
I'm really excited I hope Mazda does something, right? Like I really want them to. It's good to see Nissan's doing their thing. I love that Toyota's taking charge. I do have to say, out of all the cars I've driven, the newer ones, the Corollas, the Zs, the GRD6s, the Supras, I think the one car that stays most true to what I think that 90s driving experience really is, even if we don't see it yet, is the GR86. And I know the engine isn't, Toyota. I know it's a Subaru, but there's something about driving that car that feels like it's just the right amount of everything, just the right amount of power, just the right amount of traction, just the right amount of,
I would believe it.
It's like just analog enough, but here's some tech. When you get in the Z, I felt like I was sitting in a Grand Tour. I still feel like I sit in a Grand Tour when I get in the car. It's like, it's too fancy to be a Nissan Z. They're like, here's this huge infotainment system, and here's all this extra stuff, and here's 3,700 pounds, and
Yeah.
They should give you the sport model and all that stripped out.
Literally, I
Just make
totally
it a
agree.
350Z.
Honestly. All right, speed round before we finish up the podcast, which if you guys are listening in and you're interested in learning more about the inventory that Driver Motorsports has, you can actually go directly to their website. We'll put it in the description link below, and quite honestly, it's the best worst thing you could ever do on a Wednesday because you're going to want to buy one of these. And the person that you're probably going to bother more than anyone else is Ed. With that being said, you have $30,000 to buy a car in 2024. What car are you buying, Ed?
I'm going to buy I was not ready.
Does it have to be brand new?
It can be whatever you
All right,
want.
it could be whatever. Old, new, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You got $30,000 to buy a car right now. What are you buying?
I'm probably going to buy a new truck.
Jesus Christ. Chris?
I'm very practical. I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to hear it
A
from you.
JZX 100 Mark II.
JZX,
Because I already own
thank
the
you.
Chaser.
Thank you. Ed.
I can't buy an S15.
This guy is not doing a good job defending the Nissan name. He's like, I'm Team Nissan. I'm not buying a new Nissan. I'm not buying an old Nissan. I'm not buying a Nissan truck. I don't want it. I'm getting
he does have a
something.
Nissan
How did you
truck.
know I was thinking of not a Nissan truck?
Because nobody
What truck
is
would you
thinking
buy?
about a Nissan truck, my guy.
What
Our-
truck would you buy?
30 grand. I'd probably just get a used diesel of some sort.
Fourth
that's
gen Ram.
well-maintained.
We'll let her rip. You know what I'm saying?
GM,
Okay.
Ford.
Probably GM.
What in your opinion is the most underappreciated JDM car right now?
The Toyota Crown. That's a
Crown
great-
Majesta.
Yeah, I did mean Crown Royal. So
What's the most overrated car, JDM side, right now?
R34.
Damn.
yeah, probably.
I was going to say R32, to be honest.
Yeah.
R32s are cooler.
They are cooler. They're more analog,
Yeah.
but they're also slightly shittier.
I wouldn't say.
You don't think so?
No, I know.
You know what I'm saying.
I have the answer. My answer.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's had a chance to think about
K
it.
vehicles.
You think they're overrated?
So overrated.
Why do you think
You
that?
can't drive them fast.
Maybe-
at all. You can't even go 55. There's a reason that most K vehicles don't have tachometers.
Yeah.
Because if they did, you would just be up there at 10, 11, just and you'd be like, huh, I guess this is the way it's supposed to be.
Ed, maybe it's
That's what I
not.
do.
Maybe it's not about the destination,
It's about the journey.
but the friends we
not
make.
that guy.
The friends we make
journey.
along the way.
How many times have you heard that? The journey.
All right. If there's anything else that you'd like to say to the old audience, what would it be?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
And yeah, buy a cool Nissan. You won't regret it.
He's not a very good salesman. Buy a cool Nissan. You'll love it. Maybe.
You
I'm
will.
gonna say, you like what you like. Don't listen to anyone else. Build the car you want. Drive the car you want, and have fun.
There you go.
Wow,
That was really deep and good. That's a weird thing to say. I will say before we go, I do have 2 Nissans, so I think technically I'm on Team Nissan.
Yeah,
but
you are.
your arguments were pretty rough today, so I
Yeah.
might have to go over to Team Toyota.
Hey, but see, here's the
You can
thing.
drive my Chaser around.
Oh my God, it's got 4 doors. I'm automatically in.
I am Team Nissan, but it's like I tell my customers, it's hard to beat Toyota reliability.
It really is.
Like,
it really is.
Because you can have a Nissan for 5, 10 years, no major issues. You maintain it. Does great.
You can have a Toyota for a century.
And I've owned Nissans. Ed's owned Toyotas.
Yeah.
It's not like we're totally against it. It's not like the
We're just totally against Ford.
GM battle.
Yeah, it's not
it's not
that.
like that. But
Is there a company you are against fully?
Subaru. If we're talking Japanese cars,
And with that being said, we are going to close the podcast out. Thank you guys so much. If you're looking for car parts, be sure to mod your car at MartiniWorks. I'm Alex Martini. Thank you guys so much for listening in. And Driver Motorsports, thank you guys so much for hosting us here at the Virginia International Raceway.
Thank you
Good
again.
luck tomorrow on the track with the R33. And of course, the
Yes.
Chaser will be watching, and we will be super stoked for you guys.
awesome.
Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll talk to you later.